The next game isn't going to play like anything you want it to play like. No matter how much you want it to play like the previous game, it's not going to play like it. And you're going to have to accept that and play in that environment if you want to keep doing this, right? The trap that everybody falls into is that the new game isn't the old game. And as a result, they don't move on because they're so stuck in their idea of what a fighting game should play like. You tell any Street Fighter IV player that all the Street Fighter V fans are like, Street Fighter V is the fundamental footsie Street Fighter game right now. All the Street Fighter IV players will laugh because they hate the neutral in that game. We got stubby normals everywhere, and you get a V trigger, and then all of a sudden I can do a heavy kick V trigger into plus frames, and you die. Every player, their game is the epitome of footsies. When Street Fighter VII comes out, we're gonna be mad that Drive Rush doesn't exist, and we're gonna be like, this is dumb, you can't do anything, right? Like, defense is so easy. This is just how it is, right? People want the game to play the way they want it to play. I feel like a lot of this is because the Western world's discourse is very flawed. We don't talk about fighting games intelligently enough. We all keep promoting this idea because I had this conversation with a bunch of people, top players and stuff. They're like, all fighting games are the same. If you're good at one fighting game, you would play another fighting game, and even though what makes you good in that game would be different, because you're good at game A, you have the ability to learn what you need to get good at in game B and be a top player there. I don't know if that's true. I don't think fighting games are similar enough between each other that that's an objective truth. I think if you're really good at one Street Fighter, doesn't mean you can jump to another completely different Street Fighter and be one of the top players. That was the case with Street Fighter 3 forever. All the best players at Third Strike were not the best players at Alpha or Street Fighter 2. And all the best players of Street Fighter 2 and the Alpha games were not the best players at Third Strike. They didn't overlap very much. I think the closest might be, I don't know, like Justin. Oh, okay, Valle, yeah. It has to be like Justin, Valle. It has to be like those guys, right? It clearly has to be like those guys. Fundamentals carry over, absolutely. Fundamentals carry over, but what are fundamentals? I'll tell you, the fundamentals that you have in Super Turbo are certainly not the same fundamentals you have in Third Strike, are certainly not the same fundamentals that you have in MVC 2. Now, the concepts of you need to open your opponent up because it's mix-ups, right? The way that you beat your opponent is you gotta mix them up. You gotta make them guess whether they have to block left or right or high or low. I think the games are different enough. If you can hit S rank in one game, it doesn't mean you can hit S rank in another game. Because your brain's wired to handle stuff that 99.99% of players can't even process. The players who are good definitely have a strong chance to be good at other fighting games. They are going to be predisposed to being able to learn the other fighting games better because they are analytical, and that they will be able to approach it from a different point of view if they so desire to. But they might not get to that point because they might not think the game is fun. There are a lot of top players from the old days that when Street Fighter V first came out, they're like, finally, because this game is not Street Fighter 4. Street Fighter 4 is dumb. Street Fighter 5 is more about footsies and all this stuff, so say the devs. So now you'll see what real Street Fighter is like. And then they just couldn't succeed in that game. And why? It's because they kept approaching it from that standpoint that the game didn't play the way they wanted it to play, so they wouldn't learn it. And so they never gave themselves the chance to become good in those games. Why? Because we don't talk about enough that all the fighting games are different. And when you approach a new game, you have to approach it with a completely different mindset. I always use that example. Daigo said it in his own stream. He's like, Nuki hates 5. He even says he doesn't really like Street Fighter 4. He's not really good at those games. Is Nuki a bad fighting game player? No. He's still one of the best fighting game players. It's just that 5 is a different game. It requires a lot more studying. Daigo literally says the game requires more studying, and Nuki is lazy and doesn't want to study. But when he plays a lot of the older fighting games, which required way less studying, you can't beat him. He's one of the best. But Nuki, when he plays 5 and 6, he's at least smart enough just to be like, you know what? This is not my style, so I'm just done. I'm not even going to try playing this. It is true for almost everything in life because humans don't like changes. For a lot of these top players, and the ones that I'm critiquing more because they complain about these games a lot, this is their job. If it's just a casual player, if you play 6 and you're like, this is not for me, you don't have to play it. I'm not gonna yell at you for not playing it. I'm gonna yell at you if you say the game sucks because I can't do the things that I want to do. I will tell you you're wrong about that. It's just the game doesn't play the way you want it to play. But, you know, for a lot of the people out there who are just like, Capcom needs to nerf this, they need to change this, they need to fix this, they need to do this. This is broken, Maya's too strong. A lot of that comes from the fact that we're not approaching fighting games in an intelligent way. We keep approaching them like the things that rewarded me in the game that I'm good at should reward me in this other game. The things that rewarded me in my favorite game should reward me in all the fighting games. People are gonna be like, I suck at tag fighters, etc. But in general, that's how I feel like a lot of the Western discourse of fighting games, the things that I like about fighting games, the things that made me successful in a certain game, which because I'm successful in it, it is the most skillful game out there. My favorite things are rewarded in that game. Every fighting game should be rewarding that. It's not as blatant that everybody literally says that, but that's where a lot of the discourse goes when we talk about patches, or we talk about this character too strong, or this game doesn't play like this. Just get rid of drive rushes, right? Like, you know, you'll see people say that, like, just get rid of drive rushes, the game will be way better. Will it? Right? I mean, like, and then that's why, like, I get frustrated when people post up those clips all the time. Look at this scrub. I realized this when I was playing Street Fighter 5. Because remember, Street Fighter 5 has really, really shitty rollback netcode when it first came out. I would fight these Charlies, these Nashes online, and I don't know what it was, but like every one of these Nashes had the worst internet ever. It would be so choppy, and they would just do moonsault slashes everywhere and do all this completely unsafe stuff. And you're just like, you're a scrub, your internet is bad, and so you can get away with all these dumb things no. That Nash's player's goal is to win and to keep doing what's letting him win. Maybe he doesn't know what better netcode is like, but this strategy is obviously allowing him to continue to win because that's the environment that he's playing in. He's not knowingly being like, haha, my internet sucks, let me do scrub strategies. No, he's continuing to do the things that have been winning him matches. He's playing the game right. He's not playing the game wrong. He's playing a game correctly that has bad netcode, and he's playing online. If he goes offline, he's gonna get his ass whooped, and then he'll probably have to be like, well, what the hell? But honestly, he's playing the game right. Because moonsault slashing all over the place and teleporting netcode is gonna make you win. And his goal, just like everybody else, is to raise up in rank. And if that's working, why should he learn other things for Nash? Right? And that's the thing. They don't know it's an online gimmick. Maybe they just think that's how it looks with the rollback. They don't know. Or some people just, you know, that's just how it is that they play. And they don't know that they're relying on online gimmicks. They're just doing what wins, right? So are they playing like scrubs? Or are they actually playing fighting games right? I would argue that they're playing fighting games right. When the game's your job, whining about the game kind of comes with the territory. That's not even special. You see that in literally every line of work. I'm a nurse, and bro, there's not a single day my coworkers aren't complaining about the job. It's just how it goes. Right. But you do it. And the discourse also came up recently that people are like, how come the Japanese are successful? And how come they can train new players so well? And why do they keep getting these new players coming in that are so strong? I think it was Bolt Strike who asked that online. Or was it Pax? Might have been Pax that asked that. And that's where I did the research. And apparently, the Japanese players don't complain about things as much. They approach the game and are like, this is the way the game plays. Whether I like this or not, this is the way the game plays. So I will play the game that has been presented to me. And I just feel like a lot of people in the Western scene don't do that. I feel like there is a lot more happening in the Western scene where we're super resistant to that, and we want it to be something that we like more so than, hey, I might like this game if I just learn to play it that way. And again, some of these top players, obviously, they're really good at Street Fighter 6. I'm not saying they're bad at it and they're not having success, but there's just a different mentality. If you get hit by something that you think is dumb, it's just like, God damn it, I got hit by this stupid thing again. Ugh. But if you've just accepted that's part of the game, like I said, some people say in Japan, they don't try to check drive rushes. Someone will try to check a drive rush and get hit by something because they mistimed it and be like, God damn, see, this is why it's so stupid. But if you're like, it's too risky, I'm not even gonna try, so I'm not gonna do anything. There's a different attitude between, I should be rewarded for checking their drive rush versus, you know what, this is not worth the risk in the environment that the game exists in, so I won't try, right? I had trouble beating someone in one game. Every time I tried to do meaty stuff, I would just lose all the time. I was playing Third Strike with my friend who would never stop guest pairing on his wake up. And I wasn't good enough at Third Strike to blow him up for that. And so every time I tried to do meaty attacks or whatever, he would just parry it and I'd lose. And so I eventually started beating him by knocking him down and then running away. I purposefully did not attack him on his wake up because I could beat him in neutral better. I just didn't want to give him that opportunity to beat me with a lucky parry. So I didn't do meaties at all. I like knock him down. I was like backdash. Let him get up, neutral time. That's the thing, right? If I came from Super Turbo where all I did was meaties and meaties are so strong and I come to Third Strike and I'm like, this is dumb. Parrying is stupid because it ruins meaties. Like, if you get parried on your meaty, you're just gonna be like, so dumb. But if I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna play the game the way that, you know, the game is presented to me, you can enjoy the game a lot more, honestly. Third Strike is not much of a Street Fighter game. That was the argument a long time ago. Everybody used to say that. Third Strike is the least Street Fighter game out of all the Street Fighters. People would say that all the time. I was unaware of the FGC until I got a job that allowed me to move out of my parents' house with their trashy internet. I got better internet, started looking at fighting games with my better internet, and totally stumbled onto the FGC and committed to fighting games at the tail end of the closure of Street Fighter V. That's cool. The game is only consistent when I win every time. It's random when I lose, yes. And then Tech Axe says, I agree that each fighting game should be taken in good faith on its own terms. And I get that for the pros, it's a job. But my question is, what should dictate the game the community moves onto or not? Should it be player-driven or company-driven? Case study. Smash players stuck with Melee for like 200 years. In a rhetorical situation when there's a groundswell sentiment that the new game, let's say Street Fighter 12, is dookie, then couldn't it be fair to say the community has spoken? Yeah, absolutely. Look what's happening with Tekken 8 right now, right? Like Tekken 8, I think MK1 is kind of experiencing a lot of this, where the scene themselves are not on board with it, right? If a game sucks, it sucks. Street Fighter V, like, absolutely decimated a lot of the goodwill and momentum and fan base that Street Fighter 4 had built towards the end. Street Fighter V had 7,000 people sign up for EVO the first year because they signed up before the game came out. I can guarantee you the number of players in that game dropped really hard the next year. And there was a lot of DQs that first year too. Street Fighter 6 is not experiencing this at all. At all. So, right, Third Strike promotes doing things you should never do in other Street Fighter games. You can jump in Third Strike. You're actually allowed to jump. And so, like, again, like, I don't think... And this is why I want to bring up this conversation. Again, this is how I see things. Because one, I'm old. And two, I've been around for a while. And I view the fighting game community very differently. But maybe everything I'm saying is absolute, total nonsense, garbage, and has no application at all. I'd like to be proven wrong, but this is what I see. And again, I base a lot of these things off the patterns that I see. You know, when I talk about the heart-mind stuff and people are like, James, there's no such thing. They're all the same, right? Modern players are just better. And I'm like, what about Sam Show, top 8, first year at EVO? What about Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves? All the same players are still really good. Like, all the old great players in Tekken are still good at Tekken, you know, through Tekken 7. Before Strive, all the old Guilty Gear players were still good, even in Exert. You know, like, if the game doesn't significantly change, like, the old players can survive, right? The reason why they have a harder time in 5 and 6 for Street Fighter is because it's a different game. You know, we see this all the time. When you have a game like Fatal Fury that is now more heart-based than mind-based, it's all the old people who are doing well. There's so much evidence to back this up. The only anomaly is Japan. Japan has a lot of old people winning and a lot of young people winning. That's because they approach the games and play the game for what the game gives them to play, as opposed to just constantly wishing that they could play the game that they want to play fighting games. At this point in time, I think I'm just going to be arguing in circles. I know a lot of people do not agree with this at all. And I know a lot of people out there who would be super mad at me for continuing to promote this concept that fighting games are really different from each other, and that being good at one fighting game doesn't mean you're good at another fighting game. A lot of people don't see it that way. And I know that I'm very unique in this, but I'm also in a unique position, and I'm one of the only people that's this old and has been playing since the original Street Fighter 2 and is still in the scene, right? I mean, who else can you even name that's still this involved in the FGC that was there playing the original Street Fighter 2? Like, you could argue Tom and Tony Cannon, but that's because they're making their own fighting game. They're not really playing or commentating as much. So I don't know if there is anybody else that's kind of in the position that I'm in. And because of that, I see it from a different way. And it sucks because I can't convince other people necessarily of my argument who don't agree with me. The only thing I can really say is you'll understand when you get older. Vi wasn't there in the original Street Fighter 2. So no, Vi doesn't count. So you said not original Street Fighter 2. Like Jason Cole, I saw him at EVO, but I don't think he's playing a lot right now. There are people out there who think I'm crazy. And by spouting this nonsense, I'm showing that I don't understand fighting games. That all fighting games are the same. And that if you believe they are different, then you don't understand fighting games. I'm not going to begrudge them that opinion, because I'm sure everything they've lived up to that point kind of promotes that concept as well for them. So again, like, I'm less presenting this viewpoint as a means to tell you guys you are all fucking up and that you're wrong and that you're stupid. I may present it that way because I'm passionate and I get emotional, but it's important that we start thinking this way at all. People need to think about how fighting games are different. This expands past the players who are doing this for a job. If we start talking about fighting games in a more nuanced way, it will get to the viewers. You can be like, oh yeah, I don't enjoy watching this game because I'm not a fan of these long combos and two-touch death kind of thing. It's just not my style of fighting game. But right now, the common discourse is, I can't win in this game. It sucks. I hate this game. This game is stupid. And even if you don't think that, like, let's say you're a Street Fighter 6 player, and you kind of like Tekken, and then you're in the chat, and some Tekken player comes in and is like, God, Street Fighter is so dumb. Street Fighter 6 is the worst game ever because blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, Tekken is much better because blah, blah, blah. And you might not be a person who hates Tekken at all, but you'll be upset because someone's insulting the game that you do enjoy. If they're saying that Street Fighter 6 is scrub friendly and that's your favorite fighting game, you're insulting that person, right? And so they'll be like, no, because Tekken is stupid because look at this. Blah, blah, and like all of a sudden you're creating the divide, right? Because we're at that point where this game is either the honest game and we love it, and everything else sucks and is bad, right? As opposed to, oh, you know what? I like this kind of fighting game, and this is not it for me. So it's not one that I enjoy as much. And yeah, it's hard to ask the internet to go down that path. It's never gonna happen completely, but I think just having that kind of discussion is good, because look at how it's succeeding in Japan. The fact that the Japanese players are not complaining about the game as much, all the fans that watch see fighting game players playing the game competitively and enjoying it and giving them hype matches. Whereas in the West, we'll all go follow our favorite players and all they do is complain about the game. And so if you're having trouble with the game, now you can be like, well, pro player A said this, and you know what? He's right. It sucks. That's why I can't win. It drives narratives and it drives discourse. I mean, everybody complained about Street Fighter V. Holy crap, that game was complained about a lot. You're late. I compared it to comedy, because within comedy, you can like romantic comedies, British humor, scatological humor, slapstick, puns, sarcastic humor, mean, cruel humor, etc. If you see a movie made by the creators of Jackass, you'll probably be like, well, that comedy's not for me. Even though your favorite genre of movies is comedies, you'll be like, I'm probably not going to enjoy that. And then someone will recommend like, oh, this is a very Monty Python-esque comedy. And you're like, okay, I'll watch that. But there's not this pressure to be like, you have to watch all the comedies like there is in the fighting game. Like, if you like this fighting game, you should like that fighting game. If you're good at this one, you should be good at this one. So no one goes like, well, if you like Jackass, you should like Sleepless in Seattle, right? It doesn't exist that way. And we could do the same thing with horror, right? Because there's gore porn, there's torture porn horror films, there's horror films that are just like whatever, there are horror films that are really psychological, there are horror films that are, you know, all sorts of different horror films out there. Just because you like one of those horror films doesn't mean you like all of them. You could totally be a fan of like the Conjuring series and then just be like, I hate the Saw movies because I don't like that kind of torture porn kind of horror movie style. That's totally legit. But we don't have that kind of conversation in the fighting community. And that's the thing that drives me nuts. I mean, there's a lot of it is that too, Chris Joubert. You know, the FGC is too broad of a term. That's why there's no FPS community, MOBA community. They separate themselves, right? Like literally there's, hey, I play Heroes of the Storm. Hey, I play Dota. I play League of Legends. It's not the MOBA community. It's literally like, yeah, we play our own game. And the FGC does this very unique thing of we all try to survive under one umbrella. This is why I think it's important that we do, and I'm not trying to separate us. I just feel like we need to discuss fighting games more intelligently and improve the discourse at which we talk about fighting games. Because I really feel like the discourse that we have about fighting games sucks right now. I think it sucks. I really do. Because I've seen this so many times. And like I said, this came about because of the numpad notation thing that cropped up again on Twitter. No, numpad notation's better. No, I hate numpad notation. This notation's better. Like, maybe there's no answer. Maybe it's because different people think differently and they absorb information differently. Maybe, I mean, again, that rant I had where I was like, I don't process numbers as a translation thing. So when I see a bunch of numbers in a row, I can't see them as arrows, and it looks crazy to me, so I stopped trying. And I had a bunch of people in my chat that were like, yes, 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 it's exactly how I feel. And then you got all the numpad notation people, it's easy, it takes 5 minutes to learn. No problem. Like, how are you not learning this? If you can't learn this in 5 minutes, you're just dumb. And it's just like, stop, like, this is not how it works, man. 2XKO is still a bad name. It really is still a bad name. Anyways, okay, so that's enough about this topic. I'm curious what everybody's take on this is, what their opinions are. If you, like, let me know if you feel there is merit in what I'm saying. I've promoted this a lot. And a lot of the players who have been watching me for years and who I talk to a lot, you know, when I promote this and when I tell them about this, they start to understand fighting games differently. They start appreciating games in different ways. Because I'll be like, oh, you're a heart player, you'll enjoy this. And they try it and they're like, wow, James, you're right, I totally love this game. I feel like it's such an important conversation. And it makes us all understand, learn, and appreciate fighting games better. And in a more mature fashion, where we can actually talk about it a little bit more maturely. So, well, that's exactly what 2XKO means, JNV. If you actually kill both characters at the same time, the screen shows 2XKO on the screen. It actually flashes 2XKO on the screen if you kill both characters. So that's basically what the name means. You have to kill both of their characters, so it's a 2XKO kind of thing. I always said that I just wanted to call it Runeterra Online Fighters League. I want to call it Runeterra Online Fighters League, so that way the main game is LOL and their fighting game is Roffle, ROFL, right? So they have LOL and Roffle as their main game, you know, as two games. So that's what I always wanted to call it. So, I mean, double KO. I think it's funny that in Spain, they have to call the game Dos Equis. I think that's hilarious. And then make another game that's LMAO. I think it would just be hilarious. I think that would be amazing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. For those of you here on streaming, I will see if I can get into this topic, the second topic over here. I'm curious to see if I can do tech stuff during like Tuesday's show or if I should save it for other stuff. But for those of you on YouTube, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I know people are going to be like, pro player, listen to this. James is calling you an idiot. No, I'm not calling you an idiot. I just want to make people think about this differently, and maybe there is merit to what I'm saying. And if there is, be really cool if we can actually mature and grow when it comes to talking about fighting games. So I hope you guys did enjoy this, and I like to bring up these very interesting topics, and that is because this is the best FGC podcast on the planet. The day that this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.